to that point though, what are some of the other things that entertain you? We talked about the magazines. We brushed upon a little bit of movies there, and I know you're a horror fan, but I also know, like me, you're a guy who really enjoys comedy, and a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think that of you or I. It's like, oh, it's all doom and gloom. That's how we live our lives. It's not at all. But, we like that imagery. What are some of your favorite fucking comedies? And I mean, they could be the satire comedies, the Wes Andersons of the world. I consider that straight comedy. A lot of people would say that it's mixed genres and whatever. I'm like, that's comedy to me. So what are some of the comedies you enjoy?
I mean, classic stuff is again, I mean, it's not even very eclectic. If you just go back to the 80s, a lot of the things that I grew up on were, a lot of that sort of Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor stuff has had a tremendous effect on me, and it influenced me a lot.
Their movies or their stand-up or both?
No, but both. I mean, Raw was like fucking classic.
Dude, anyone who's like just born now goes back and watches Raw, don't understand it. But like that shit was fucking fire. Like it's so
good. I loved it. And I mean, obviously now in the modern day, you're sort of like you're not supposed to. I don't know what to.
I don't mean to derail this part of it, but I really hope
for anyone. But
I don't mean to derail this, but I have to speak on that real quick. I really hope that we're getting back to a point when not everyone gets canceled or deleted or whatever. Like, because we have to, as a society, get past that. Like, I understand everyone can be offended, and I don't mean anything like that, but we got to have thicker skin, man. You got to be able to understand when there's a joke and when there's not. Like, this understanding of like, oh, they said something, and that's who they are and how they're. Dude, if I fucking walked around with a camera and a videotape of anybody in this fucking world and just put out snippets of what they fucking said, we'd all look horrible. So stop like pretending like you've never said anything bad. I'm talking to you on fucking social media, by the way. Stop pretending like you've never said anything bad in your life. Like, you don't need to cancel everyone. You don't need to fucking do this. Comedians are allowed to make jokes. If they can't make racy jokes, then fuck. What is comedy? That, to me, that's what comedy is. Like, how can you be funny? It's like the South Park fucking thing, judging forward of what's his name, Jimmy, because he's got the safe comedy. It's like, safe comedy, what is that? That's not comedy anymore. The whole point of it is to point out the stupid shit that we fucking do, people.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to really have a straight line there because, as I said, I grew up in a very mixed bag of a lot of things that might have aged poorly.
Right.
I guess Raw would be one of those that would be looked upon with judgment now. But I loved it. So stuff like that. But a lot of the comedic groups of people that I liked would, obviously I grew up with Monty Python.
Monty Python, and, dude, and the Holy Grail. What a great fucking movie that one was.
And Peter Sellers,
nice.
Pink Panther, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
James Bond later in his life. He actually got to play Q.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, dude. Oh, come on, man.
Chevy Cheese. I was combining that with John Cleese. John Cleese stuff.
You just made a meld of a perfect actor comedian right there.
Chevy Cheese. Yeah. I can even go on a long tangent why I think that Benny Hill was a fucking genius, but people just remember his.
You're not allowed, because you're not allowed to like him. Exactly, you're not allowed to like that scene. But that scene was iconic. It was so iconic that that happened in the '70s when you and I were probably watching it in the '80s. That was all syndication. It was that popular that they had syndication, and people were fucking paying money to see Benny Hill.
But the problem is that people just remember him chasing girls, and that was not the funny. That's not where he was the funniest. When he was most brilliant was when he was doing songs, or when he was doing skits, and he did a lot of trick filming that was really funny, and I think that a lot of those things are things that I treasure and that really influenced me, and I have always been a very laughing person, if you will. I've always had a laugh is always accessible for me. If that makes sense. And I like it, humoring even the sad things in life and all that. And so just to sort of grasp back at where you started, although that both of our bands are sort of embracing the doom and gloom of the darker forces of nature, I guess, darker forces of the world and the life. I'm actually a quite joyous person, and I've always been a very, very big fan of comedy and just humor in general. My favorite comedy outlets right now, and has been for the last 10 years, is actually a Swedish artist called Jan Stenmark.
Not familiar.
That's the thing. And it's so sad that he hasn't sort of reached beyond the borders of Sweden, because his art is basically, I don't know if there's anything that's translated. His style is basically, he takes an old picture from some sort of catalog from the 1950s of someone, like a woman who's like doing that. And then there's a funny line underneath that completely makes the picture be so hysterical.
So he's like memeing? He's like memeing on stuff? It sounds...
Yeah. And every year he releases a book filled with these memes, basically.
Okay.
And every time I read almost anything that he's ever done, he's been active for 30 years.
Shit,
everything.
Man.
If I start reading his stuff or looking at his pictures, it gives me it literally pains my side, because it's like I can't stop laughing. So early on, when I didn't have a driver's license and I was still sort of commuting and doing things like that, it was almost like a rule: never buy one of his books or start reading it at the subway, because I will start laughing so hard that I'm going to make an ass of myself. So you can check it out.
I would love to see you reading one of those. I'm sorry.
Jan.
Jan.
So it's Jan, Jan, and then Stenmark, as our old slalom skier.
Okay.
Ingmar Stenmark. 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 Stenmark.
So in post on the video right now, not for those on the audio, but in post in the video, I'm just going to have it. We're going to spell it out and fucking put a link to it, because I got to check this out too.